And we are, Cody. We are live. It is Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant. Guys, I haven't changed my name now in 2 or 3 years. Like this, I don't know. I love it. And as all of the audience knows, I am not as technically proficient as Kevin, but Cody and I are going to string together a show for the WYSL audience, hopefully taking some pressure off of Kevin, who has, guys, he has reach out to him, say some kind words, check in on him. He has got, Cody, he's got a lot going on, man.
Yes, he does. Young child and heart surgery. He is doing well, young man. But by all means, do reach out to him and let him know. Let him give him your well wishes. And Tim, I want to assure you that I am not going to drop the f bomb tonight.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't believe you, but like you can't drop the F bomb on the segment for the radio. That's really that part's pretty important. And
I'm
look, it's hard, bro, because the subjects we're going to be talking about, the F bomb fits.
Tim. We had half an hour of f bombs before we went live, so
Yeah.
I need to break that habit real quick,
Well,
real
it's
quick.
it's like hopefully to get them out of your system, but then again, I don't know, we get comfortable and it just fits as part of the conversation and it may make it even more challenging. That's
He-
that's the
he-
thing I'm concerned about.
hence my concern, my friend.
That's fair. It's fair. I definitely want everybody to know that you and I are beef buddies.
Wait, stop it, stop it! I told you never to say that.
I don't
Never,
care.
never, not
We
in
are.
public.
I know, but we are, man. How do you like it? How do you like the beef?
Oh, it's fantastic. We have, and just to be clear for our audience who may not be aware, Tim and I split half of a cow, or I'm sorry, we split half a cow. So I got half of a half. Tim got half of a half. Local, grass fed. Tim and I do not live far from one another. We live about 45 minutes away from each other. So we, from time to time, we get together and we trade beef, so to speak. And
That actually sounds worse than how I would have said it. That
how
that
how dare you?
actually
How
sounds
dare you?
worse.
How dare
How
you?
dare you?
So anyway, this cow is unbelievable. We have a lot of ground beef. We just tried tri-tip sirloin the other night.
Nice.
What we learned was that we need to braise that. It does not. We marinated it, and it just wasn't enough. So we need
Yeah.
to,
Let
yeah.
me let me give you a suggestion. It's something I've been trying lately, and I noticed it on the internet, so I thought I'd give it a shot. And it's a relatively cheap additive, right? You put a little baking soda in your marinade, and you can tell that you put baking soda in it, but it really kind of like relaxes the strength of the meat. It really
Yes.
turns it down a notch, and I don't find it to be bothersome. It adds a little bit of a baking soda kind of kick, but I don't know. It really makes for tasty and like tender, and it's good,
It is the
man.
tender is the tender that's this tri-tip that we made absolutely requires a little bit of breaking down.
Yeah,
The marinate that we marinated it for about 36 hours, it simply was not enough. So the next time we have about 5 of them in our collection. So
we
next
got
time we're gonna braise it or do it in the instant pot. I'm not sure which one, so we'll figure it out.
We got so much beef, like, I couldn't even believe how much it was, and, like, when beef in the store, Cody, is 7, 8, $9 a pound, like, it
I always
was
I
we
buy
saved money.
low. I
Yeah,
buy low and I freeze it. As you know,
sure.
I have two chest freezers because I'm a maniac.
You are a
But
maniac.
I buy cheap meat and I got to be honest. There's no shortage of it. I shop at the Hannaford. Shout out.
Good, yeah, alright.
But I buy pork butts and chicken when it's 99 cents a pound, and I
Yeah,
freeze it. I freeze it, and
yeah,
I sometimes I vacuum seal it, sometimes I don't. But it's
I
sort of the way to go, and I hope my freezer doesn't die. So well, we're both my freezers don't die, but we're
right.
we're but the grass fed stuff is superior, and it's not that much more than a family pack of the store bought beef, and it really is better
So,
quality, lower fat. You actually get more meat, more protein. It's great.
one of the things I like talking about is, like, the ground beef aspect of it, right? Where you
Yeah.
buy store-bought ground beef, regardless of the price, you brown it up for tacos or something like that, and you're draining, like, a cup of fat off of it, you know what I mean? You're losing, like, a substantial amount. Now with this stuff bro.
Nope.
I have to add like bacon grease or something to it. It adds a little flavor, like I just for it to cook right. You got to add a little fat to it. So like when I make a meatloaf, I've got to add bacon grease or
Well,
cheap
look,
cheese or something like that.
look, you may know that I live with a hippie broad, and
Yeah,
she
hell yeah.
has me saving all the beef tallow because she's also a maniac in a different way than I am.
All
And
right.
I have I have a visit though. I have about 16 pints of beef tallow in my freezer
What
waiting
do
to
you
be
do
made
with
into.
that?
Well, you make candles out of it. You make candles out
Okay.
of it, or it can be cooking grease when if
All right.
uh, what is the fan? See
Yeah.
how I did that? See, so I stopped myself from saying an
Yeah.
inappropriate
All right.
word.
Good
But
for you. I'm
but
proud of
what
you.
it, I'm not. But it. We're saving a lot of the beef tallow from the store cooked beef, but now we don't have it in the grass fed, which is fine. It's
Good.
just different, and it is so much better and cleaner. And knowing your farmer is helpful.
Yeah, your farmer is.
You know
I'm
the
a
farmer.
firm
I do
believer.
not. You know the farmer.
Yeah, your farmer is not going to poison you, right? Like he's just not. Look, in 12 seconds though, I'm going to start the radio show. We got it.
Go
We got
for
to
it.
get moving. All right.
Hmm.
And
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
all right, welcome to A Free Solution. This is Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant, and as many of the WSO audience already knows, and many of our Facebook friends already know, Kevin's kind of going through some things right now. He's got a new baby. He had a little medical procedure. He's got a lot going on. He has turned the actual host duty reins over to me. So, in turn, I had to find a conspiracy theorist, a literal nut job who was going to bring the heat to make the stories happen. My friend Cody Anderson, former chair of the LPNY, current are you the secretary? What are you? Still like a boss there?
I'm the treasurer. I'm on the executive committee, and $10 might buy you a cup of coffee nowadays.
That is first of all, Cody, you're one of the guys in the LPNY that gives me hope that we have a future. Like that liberty in our lifetimes is possible. So I just want to say thank you for everything you've done. I think one of the things we want to talk about tonight, Cody, like it's a pretty big deal. We've got the House of Representatives just voted on a FISA bill, right?
Oh,
That to continue a pattern of warrantless searches that they say protect us from terrorists and don't, well, no, they admit it invades the privacy of American citizens, but it's for your safety, Cody. What do you think about that?
I think I'd like to see everybody voted out who voted for this renewal. And just for those of you who are not familiar, FISA is the um, act that basically lets people go to a special law enforcement go to special FISA court, get a secret warrant, so it's not even a public thing. It's not even a warrant. As a court order is really what it is, and it
Correct.
lets it lets it
They
lets
can hang on. They can skip the whole warrant process, right?
hundred
Like
percent, 100%, hundred
they
percent.
just can spy on you with
Correct,
no judicial oversight, and
correct.
then take whatever information they get and use it however they want. It
Hey, and by the way, members of Congress, they're not quite exempt, but they are the Congress, the Gang of Eight in Congress, which is the Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader, and the Minority Leader in the Senate, and ranking members of the Intelligence Committee. They all get notified, which means that is that if somebody gets caught, if somebody congressperson gets caught up in a FISA search, they basically say, hey, they get a notification that says, hey, dude, you've turned up here, and just so you know, you get caught, and we got and we got your back is really
That's
what's going
really
on.
what it is. Like,
That's
look,
really what it is.
later on in the yeah, I'm sorry, Cody. Later on in the show, we might talk about some of the stuff from the '90s that started me down this path of figuring out just how separated they are from us. So, how about our local reps, Cody? Like, where do you think they came down on this stuff?
Oh, Elise Stefanik is a traitor. She is my representative. She's a traitor to the American people and the Constitution. To the extent, and just to be clear, being a libertarian guy, I'm all about the natural rights, right?
Sure.
And the Constitution sort of provides the framework for enforcing the natural rights, and restraining an out of control government. And I think that Elise Stefanik is a traitor to all of America, as well as her district and the state of New York, for having voted for it. And Mr. Molinaro, who I believe I've been redistricted back to Mr. Molinaro, for next time. He is, he was noticeably absent for the vote, which was also, I believe he is your representative, is he not?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
So basically, when I have way more Twitter followers than he does. So like when he does something inappropriate, I put him on blast, right? Like I'm like, all right, well, my representative did. So he kind of ducked the vote, which Cody, I mean, probably he didn't really understand it. Probably he didn't want me, like, probably it's because I forced him to reside in a place of fear. He didn't want to be put on blast on Twitter. And look, when I look at a guy like Thomas Massey and I compare him to like his straight up honesty about situations like this, where this is an infringement, like, looks like a Fourth Amendment infringement. It looks
Are
to
you?
me like,
I'm sorry, Tim. Are you talking about Representative Massey of Kentucky?
yes, I am. I'm
Thank
willing
you.
to go to Kentucky to get my representation because I don't feel our guys take care of us. What do you think about that?
I feel you, my friend, and Mr. Massey was tearing down the head of the Intelligence Committee, as well as Mr. Jordan, the other day when they were dodging the questions in the Judiciary Committee hearing. So kudos to Mr. Massey and for standing up for really libertarian principles, and pro Constitution principles. He is the hero here. I don't see many other heroes.
Well, look, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, there were a number of Republicans that voted with Massey on this. Now
you cannot make me say that I am thankful for MTG. You cannot make me say that.
She's a weird one, man. She goes, so look, I like the fact that she travels down these wormholes where she takes an anti-authoritarian bent. Now, does she in fact like lose her mind and get
Yes.
crazy and go off the rails? All those things are real, but when she votes the way I think that would be important for her to vote, I'm fine with her. And again, Matt Gaetz has been putting on a pretty good show. I'd like to see him progress more towards a more libertarian future. It was such a nail in the coffin. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was the deciding vote. He didn't even have to vote, and this thing would have failed, right?
Correct.
So at the last minute, in the 11th hour, in the 59th minute, this guy stepped up and made sure that this bill passed in its current form.
They only needed one vote, and they got it from somebody. They sweetened it. They sweetened it somehow, or MTG made a very cogent case that some of the people who are voting for this stuff may be compromised, especially Speaker Johnson.
Arguably, so that is a very persuasive point to make, but it's somewhat unconvincing without presenting the compromising issue. Like, what do they have on them? And I know it's like, okay, well, they have something on them because this is no good. But what do they have on them? What could they have on them? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right.
what sorts of like flights on Epstein's Island, hanging out with P. Diddy? Like, what could they have on them? You know what I'm saying?
Well, who knows, right? And
Sure.
let's be honest. The vast majority of politicians serving us in Washington are compromised in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so let's start from that premise, right? And you know the question really becomes how badly is he compromised, in what way, you know? And look, you know,
He's done a couple of things that make him appear to be compromised and to make him appear to already like passing an omnibus spending bill, right? Like that was the hugest spending bill in the history. That was everything that Nancy Pelosi would have passed, and perhaps even bigger. It was larger than any spending bill that he allowed it to come to the floor. He suspended the rules, and you and I were going to talk about these rules things. There was some confusing stuff last week. I was kind of excited about this FISA bill because it looked like it had been struck down. And unfortunately, I was completely wrong. Like, people were like, oh, Trump struck down the FISA bill. Everybody got it wrong. Everybody.
Well, so I respond. So I am a subscriber to the Campaign for Liberty, which is the Ron Paul think tank and an activist
Perfect.
branch, and I get their emails literally on a daily basis. You know, contact your congressman, contact your senator about this. It's bad, and there's a lot of lead up to the to the FISA vote, and and at the end of the day, the first procedural step killed the I'm reading here just to see that it was widely blocked, and included 19 Republican lawmakers, and they raised concerns that quote unquote from Forbes, a cohort of GOP members have repeatedly raised concerns that current provisions in the bill don't go far enough to protect the privacy of U.S. citizens, including pushing for the inclusion of a warrant requirement, which right now, as you know, there is not one. So right now, it's just it goes to this crazy FISA court. These warrants
Star Chambers.
are issued are issued in secret, and and our privacy goes out the window. So FISA, of course, is due to expire on April 19th.
Yep.
And so my understanding is that this was an attempt. The vote 5 days ago was really meant to get people on the record.
That was part of the procedural action
Correct.
that ended up failing, and so everybody kind of thought the FISA 702, Section 702 failed. Now, let me steel man, and this is, guys, I'm the conspiracy theorist, but I want to steel man. I'm going to try to steel man deep state arguments for this FISA 702. Okay, guys like Eye Patch McCain and Mike Johnson have made these.
I'm sorry. Do you mean Dan Crenshaw? Is that who you're talking about when you say Eye Patch McCain?
Oh yeah, that's what I mean.
The dread pirate Crenshaw.
Yeah, that guy. That's the guy that I'm talking about. So look, they're saying without this FISA 702, we and the warrantless searches, we put ourselves at risk from foreign terrorists. Okay, like that we would be now having to seek warrants for foreign terrorists when we're collecting data and information on them. That this 702 has protected us from terrorist attacks. And sure, Mike Johnson, quote, sure, it's been used against American citizens who are in contact with people in other countries.
Hey, Tim. Tim.
That's a problem we've got to fix. That's
you know. Hey, let me ask you a question. Do you know how many terrorists the Patriot Act has actually caught?
Statistically speaking, is there a percentage? Zero?
I'm gonna go in round numbers. Yeah, I do know how many is actually caught.
Zero. I'm going with zero.
That's the roundest number you can come up with, and you're absolutely correct. So it says that there's FISA has no justification other than whataboutism, right?
Yeah, well, and 250,000 times at the very least they've eavesdropped and gathered data on American citizens. So I
Tim,
mean,
they built a data warehouse in Utah to the tune of
nice.
$10 billion
Worth
just
it.
to house petabytes of data related to all these uh,
Man,
warrantless surveillance programs.
I'm literally getting off the internet. Everything that we're saying is probably getting recorded right now.
Fine.
Fine. Fine, he says. Yeah.
Fine.
So that is the steel man argument. There is an admission that parts of this are supposed to be fixed. Dan Crenshaw is making the claim that we can't gather information on cartels in foreign countries that are talking to American citizens without this piece of FISA. Now, cartels in foreign countries.
Nonsense.
Well, I'm just
Nonsense.
saying, Cody, I'm trying to steel man it. You can't just say nonsense. You've got to counter me. No, you
No,
don't.
it is
You
not.
don't.
No, it
I'm
is
with you.
nonsense. No, the but here's the deal: is that the four eyes are already talking. Canada, United States, and Britain, and the other one that I can't remember right now. Five Eyes.
Five Eyes. It's Five Eyes.
Five
Yeah.
Eyes. Thank you.
Australia. It's
Australia,
Australia, the United States,
Australia,
Canada,
and
Britain,
Djibouti. And Djibouti.
and Djibouti. Yes, yeah,
And
you're right.
Djibouti.
Yeah, Djibouti. It is. That's wild.
So they're already exchanging information, right? To the extent, by the way, not completely exchanging information. They exchange information to the extent that it's politically expedient for them to do so, right? So there may be stuff that they don't know,
Right.
and my point being is that they there's no true proof that they have stopped anything in the 20 plus years since the Patriot Act was passed.
Cody, they got those four guys down in Middletown or Middleburg, the four poor.
I'm in Middleburg. How dare you?
It was south of Middleburg. They got those four guys. The FBI talked them into being terrorists. They ended up picking them up at a church that they were going to bomb. Those guys got released on compassionate release earlier this year. We did the story on the show. So they got those guys, Cody. They stopped. Well, they stopped after encouraging them to be, in fact, terrorists. They stopped them from committing the act that they encouraged them to do. This is a real thing. But I don't think they used the FISA. They used the limousine guy.
Right. Well, the whole nother rabbit hole that our local lore, right? They protected that guy because he was there's for the audience's benefit. There's a big limousine accident back in 2018 here in Schoharie County, which is where I live, and they and it involved 20 people died. It was terrible. But at the end of the day, the FBI basically ferried the father, who was the owner of the business, out of the country back to Pakistan because it turns out we find later on that he is actually an FBI asset.
Sure, and if they could have compelled him to testify, it would have blown so many of their cases. This guy used people to turn them into what the FBI could arrest. That's the only way to say it, right?
100%. So,
Yeah.
but we were just saying this before we went live. The George Costanza argument. It's entrapment.
Yes. It was in fact entrapment.
100%.
I got a comment out there from Shelley that I want to kind of talk about regarding FISA. Aren't people who don't vote for the seated president seen as foreigners? They certainly treat them that way. Now, what this sparked in my brain was the whole issue of Carter Page, who was in fact a CIA asset, part of a low-level advisor to the Trump campaign, who some Russian agent reached out to him to try to talk to him about what they could collaborate on. And that is how the Obama administration used FISA to spy on Trump. And I remember back in the day, the Obama administration and the Biden, or the Hillary Clinton campaign had information that could have only came from a spying operation, and people didn't want to buy it, Cody. But this is how they legally justified it. They placed a CIA asset in there. He had a conversation with a Russian guy. And so that entitled them to take the FISA and expand it all the way out to Trump and do this whole warrantless search on the Trump campaign. That's a real story. That's a real issue. That's something that really happened. Now, it's got to have happened to other people. They're going to do it. That's once you give these guys that power, Cody, what are they
Yep.
going to do with it? They got to find a way to use it.
Ain't going to give it back either, by the way.
No.
And you know, as the last 20-something years has evidenced, every time this FISA comes up for renewal, or
Yeah.
the Patriot Act writ large, right? It's like
Yeah.
you know, as much as people say, oh, we'd really like to, but you know, we really like to not renew it, but you know, the American way and
The steelman
terrorism.
arguments of catching cartel agents and other terrorists. We've protected the country from terrorists. Like,
hey, how are we doing with the cartel agents? You know, how's the flow of drugs into the country?
well, the
by the way?
cartel agents recently took a stand against fentanyl. If that makes anybody feel better, they're like, we don't do fentanyl. We're not going to do fentanyl, and we're going to kill people that do fentanyl. Like, we are not part of this fentanyl thing. I wish that I had the article to pull it up because it was wild, right? Like, the free market provides. Not sure that I believe them, but that's a reality. Like, it was around the time they returned a bunch of American citizens. But we're coming up on a break. Thank you to the WYSL audience. Thank you to everybody out there in Twitter and Facebook land. We will be right back. That was a rough break. It's a rough transition. Kevin's so much better at that stuff than I am.
It's fine. He's smooth AF.
Was it? Did I do okay? See,
You did fine. You did fine.
face
It
got
came
red.
out of nowhere. I was like, oh, it's time. It's
Huh?
very surprising. How dare you? How dare you, Queeter? You know what? You know what? Do you have anything better to do? Can you just?
He does. He does.
Yeah,
He did a show with me last week. He's got a lot of stuff going on. That guy.
Queeter is doing the Lord's work. Let me tell you.
My God, man.
He's doing a lot more than I am.
Well, but you're doing something. I'm doing something.
I'm trying to leave New York. That's what I'm trying to do.
Well, honestly, no one can blame you for that. And we have a couple stories coming up in the next radio segment. Which honestly, it's a fiasco, man. It's a fiasco. So
Yes, it is.
we don't actually have a group. This is just a WSL radio show, bro. We don't need to do business other than our business.
We're not making any decisions. We're having conversation here. Having a conversation about not the rules. You know what? How dare you? Blocked and reported.
Look, I've got to be honest, Cody. One of the things that I was very frustrated with the LPNY was the strict adherence to the rules committee. I think hundreds, if not thousands, of man hours got wasted that should have been spent on outreach. I've always felt that way, and I feel more and more strongly about it each and every time it comes up.
Every time there's a rules amendment, I speak out against it, saying, we are literally shuffling deck chairs, and the ship is sinking. No, really, and the ship is sinking, and all you guys has come up with more rules to govern this body. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I think I've become more successful at that.
Yeah, good. I think that is a pathway to the future, that outreach is possible, that it is probable that it will, in fact, make it.
You know what it requires? It requires people to leave their basements,
sure,
and get out from behind their keyboards,
sure,
and actually
absolutely.
and actually talk to people.
And that, in fact, works. So for the next segment, you and I kind of threw a bunch of things at you. Give me one that you want to cover in the next segment. Which one?
Pick one. I will vamp.
All right, cool. We've got to talk about the New York State Governor Kathy Hochul, Delaware North, the obvious interaction of the government, the governor, and Delaware North. We've got to talk about that.
But look, the guys, there are a couple Western New York representatives who have also worked for Delaware North, and
nice.
we can talk about that.
That sounds like you're the guy that the perfect guy to have on the show about Delaware North, right? So I'm going to hide this comment. We're going to go back in about 13 seconds.
All right.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. I am the host for today. I am not the conspiracy theorist. I've got a guy filling in that role. I am Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant. I want to thank the WYSL audience. I want to thank the people at WYSL for providing us with a platform. I also want to thank the conspiracy theorist tonight, my friend Cody Anderson, a fellow libertarian, a guy that knows a lot of stuff, and a guy that does a lot of great stuff for our community. Cody, congratulations to New York State's Governor Kathy Hochul for more than doubling her income in 2023.
Tim, to be fair, she did not double her income, but
Oh,
her husband did.
oh, okay. Tell me more,
Uh, I, I,
Cody.
I well, so there's this company. For those of you who are not aware, this company. So first of all, Mr. Hochul, Hochul,
Okay,
he is Hochul, he is a former federal prosecutor. So
sure.
which is laughable. He is currently living off a federal pension.
Nice,
Nice. Yep.
nice.
And getting paid for that. He also is a former employee of the Delaware North Corporation, which, for those of you who do not know Delaware North, it is the politically connected concessionaire for among other things the New York State Thruway Authority, and they for if you've walked into one of the uh, Lord's Chicken outlets on the Thruway or any of the
Whoa, whoa,
brand
whoa.
new.
I like Chick-fil-A.
I
Let's
do
just
too.
keep it. Okay.
I don't mean to bring them into this, but they
Don't
are the
drag them
franchise.
down, bro.
They are the operators, so I have to bring it up. But but
Sure.
but and God bless Chick-fil-A and God
Yeah.
bless your chicken sandwiches.
They're
So
delicious.
so it's delicious. So anyway, they run, among other things, the throughway rest areas, right? And you can be sure that Delaware North got an upgrade to all their facilities paid for by the toll payers and ultimately the taxpayers of this state, right? When they decided to uh, upgrade all these perfectly good rest areas to great inconvenience of the throughway travelers. In fact, I was actually in the Grand Canyon in April 2023, and who ran the gift shop at the Grand Canyon National Park, Tim O'Connor?
Can I guess?
Please do.
Is it Delaware North? Are they a
Uh,
big, huge mega corporation that collaborates with government all over the country?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And you may be interested to know that also a couple of the Western New York
Representatives?
representatives
Oh,
over the last many years. By the way, Delaware North, also based in Western New York, have you know have had positions at Delaware North in the past, and a couple current sitting um, representatives do. So the tendrils of Delaware North go far and deep, and they are. If you want to define the swamp, Delaware North is at the tip of that spear.
fair enough. Now, what if they just provide a valuable service in exchange for a low price, low cost provider of vending services to the government? What about
But
that,
they
Cody?
don't. You see, what they do, they provide overpriced services to captive audiences, such as on the Thruway or at the Grand Canyon. So they not only do they are literally a government sponsored monopoly.
I think that all right, so
Have I think I just heard something pop in your brain, Tim.
well, because I'm the host of the show and not the conspiracy theorist, like I'm trying to
How
steel
dare
man.
you? How dare you put this on me? You are
I know
absolutely
I'm trying to steel man the government's case here so basically their business model is to gain access to captive audiences and basically overcharge, right? Is that The
That
allegation
is
we're
their
looking
business
for.
model. They came a long way from gumball machines to where they are today.
That is, yeah, no, that's amazing. You know who
It's
was big
despicable.
into
It's despicable.
well,
Despicable.
you know
And
who
you know
was
what? At the end of the day, it is a free market, except that it's the government who is connected to these people who is choosing the players, right?
you know who was big into gumball machines, Cody? The mob. Like they I mean
It's funny
they
you mentioned that. Yeah, well,
uh,
yes,
I mean,
yes.
I'm just saying that
Um,
is where this stuff could possibly go. I want to present some of the actual numbers to the WSL audience, to our people and friends out on Twitter and Facebook. Um, the couple made around $2 million in adjusted gross income in 2023, up a staggering $1 million from 2022.
golly, doesn't the government only make $500,000?
That's the governor only makes $500,000. But
Where'd that
Bill,
other money come from, Tim?
well, it came from a large chunk of it came from Delaware North. Um, and Cody,
Stop. I mean, but he doesn't work for them anymore. That would mean he's getting some kind of deferred payment arrangement. Is that right?
that is correct. He in 2022 he garnered $650,375 from his job with Delaware North. Now,
Oh.
yeah, he left Delaware North in the summer of 2023.
Oh, so wait, he's getting paid for not working for Delaware North? What value could he offer to Delaware North Corporation to
I
pay him when he's not really working for them?
I don't know, but it was like to the tune of $1.5 million. So what value could
Oh.
he provide? Like, look, one of the things that people do, Cody, and I think you know this, and I think our audience know this, and I don't think that the WYSL audience understands it, but selling access to big budgets that the government creates is completely freaking legal. Okay. It's an
Yeah.
absolute legal business that is an absolute stench of corruption. And yet they have laws codified that not only allow it, but encourage it. So guys like Bill Hochul can get their cash. People like Kathy can make bank while they're running a state. It's an
It's like
amazing
but
situation.
to be fair, she's not making the money.
Right. Well,
You know,
Bill
it's
is.
just it's
Bill is
it's
making
he's
the
making
money.
the money. Although I don't know that he's doing a whole lot for that. I mean, would I can't imagine Delaware North would pay Mr. Hochul for access to his wife, who's the governor. I can't imagine that.
Well, I mean, who writes the
That
budgets in
feels
your
dirty.
state?
It feels dirty to me. It
It
feels
does feel
dirty to
dirty
me,
to me.
Tim.
The question is, like the federal government, who writes the budgets in New York State? Okay. The executive branch writes the budgets. These guys do not, like the federal government, do not vote on amendments. They do not debate spending bills on the floor. They basically get dumped in their lap from the executive office, and then maybe they trim it a little bit. Maybe they get to steal some pork out of it, but their overall impact on the actual budgeting process is rubber stamping what the executive office wants.
I disagree with that because
Okay.
if that were the case, Tim, we would actually have a budget passed right now, which we do not.
Oh, that's true. There is a little shakedown going on. You're right
Well,
about that.
there usually is. I mean,
Sure.
for the past forever, there's always been a a fight between the legislature and the executive branch about what the priorities should be, and you know, from time to time, you get, for instance, Governor Cuomo, to his, I hate to say it, to his credit. Oh,
That had to hurt.
sorry,
That had to hurt. I'm surprised you
sorry.
didn't swear right there, to be honest with you.
I could have, and I apologize in advance to the nice people at WYSL. So he, they, I lost my train of thought, Tim.
Sorry about that. I do that to everybody.
Nah, it's all right. But they, there is some bickering, right? Because the legislature is really where the work gets done as far as earmarks and pork for home districts, right? And the
Right.
Senate and the Senate and in the Assembly. So at the end of the day, they you know, the if it's whatever the issue du jour is, whether it's racial equity, or whether it's whether it's the affordable housing boondoggle, which maybe we'll talk
They have a
about.
lot of great stuff going on with that. We could do a whole segment on that.
Oh my goodness! Do they want to have us for 2 hours? But
No.
the reality is that it's never it's almost never a clean budget that gets sent to, from the executive branch to the legislature, and there's always some degree of bickering, unless somebody flexes to make it not that way. And Cuomo, again, back to his credit, he a couple times he was able to sort of flex and get the budget passed. This is not one of those years.
Yeah. So look, I just want everyone to know that Bill and Kathy are not without compassion. Okay. So we are panning them and making fun of them. I want everybody to know that they are very charitable. The Hochul's made more donations in 2023 than they did in 2022. They contributed $84,000,
Oh,
$84,780 via stocks to various organizations last year, including 40 shares of Microsoft, valued roughly at $14,000 at the time.
the old appreciated stock trick, so you don't have to pay
Yeah,
tax. So you don't have to pay state or federal taxes on
right.
them.
To the Franciscan Sisters of St. Joseph in Hamburg. The tax documents cited by the Gothamists indicate in 2022 they contributed a measly $58,424. Guys, on a salary of $2 million, I don't even know how they can do it. I don't even know
Look,
how they can do it.
look, a hell of a way to money launder. That's all I'll say about that. Anyway,
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Okay, like that we can sit by and watch our governor and her husband get rich, cut deals, build a new stadium, make some bank off of that. Bill is a lawyer, so he's getting residual payments for the agreements that he makes. I presume that's the situation with his deferred compensation from Delaware North, and that as the new stadium gets further and further along, he gets to put more and more money in his pocket. Guys, you know who's going to be on the hook for some of the overruns and the cost overruns?
the
Right now,
Seneca Mohawks.
yeah, well, they're on the hook for the initial startup costs. That's for sure.
Oh, I see. They were the initial investors, kind of.
Yeah,
No,
they weren't. No, they didn't actually get anything for what happened, Cody. Like there was a very proud moment of, hey, you know what we just did? We took a bunch of money from the Senecas, and then they were like, coincidentally, we're going to build a big, huge new football stadium.
we're laughing.
Like that.
We're laughing. It's not funny. However, I take solace knowing that the Seneca Mohawks have completely stopped playing ball with the state and the feds, and that I can buy a gallon of gas for $2.50 on the Cattaraugus reservation.
Oh, okay. Well, so see, that's the way they can get even. I love that. And they should. They played ball with them for a long time. And
I can also buy cheap cigars and weed. So you know what?
weed,
That's
marijuana.
marijuana.
Oh my God, you
The devil's
libertarians
lettuce.
and
The
your
devil's lettuce. Look, but
hang on. Listen, and once again, Tim failing at his hosting duties. We are coming up on a break. Thank you to the WYSL audience. Cody and I will be right back. I don't know if I got the timing right on that. We already might have been a minute long.
It's fine. It's fine.
It should all work out. Kevin can fix it from his hospital bed.
He'll
Look,
make you. He'll make you talk faster. He'll make you talk faster for a minute, and then it'll all fit in. It's fine.
Oh, see, yeah, you guys all you guys that understand computer stuff better than me are like, God, Tim, it's a very simple fix. I'm like, I have no idea what that means. I will edit this show, and that's gonna be how that goes. And
You're gonna send the raw do it live footage to Kevin and let him do his magic.
hopefully that would be a possibility, but more than likely, I still kind of want to take the burden off of Kevin. So I'm gonna try to edit it myself, and I'm gonna try to make it come out correctly, and then send it to our friend Bob, who is a wonderful, patient human being that hates it when I screw all that stuff up. I'll be perfectly honest. He does not like that at all. So anyway, that's where we get to. Let's see if we've got any.
Oh, New York Housing Solutions.
New York Housing Solutions, New York City Housing Solutions. But
well, we're gonna go outside. We're gonna go outside New York City because I have some interesting news from my old neighborhood in Columbia County.
Okay. You want to do a little bit of that?
They just got a $2 million grant to build accessory units. So if you want to build an affordable housing unit on your property, you are allowed. They will give you a grant to build one. And there's no chance of abuse for that, making it Airbnb or anything like that. Although it's a restriction that they say you can't use it as an Airbnb, but who's watching, right?
I don't know. So, all right. So that you want to do that next segment, part of that? I think that we've got like an update.
Yeah,
on
we'll talk about housing. Let's talk about housing.
We'll talk about housing. We'll talk about what they've done in New York City. We'll talk about what you're talking about. Will talk about. We'll try to get to an update on Amos, and then I do want to point out to everybody that last week when Queter and I were talking, I talked about the 92, 93, 94 post office scandal. I didn't. I have more details on that. I had some of that information wrong, and I want to kind of like straighten out the record.
You want to provide an errata.
What? Fix. Don't be using big words like that.
Errata, a retraction, a correction,
a correction,
a correction.
Yeah, yes, correction.
Good.
So good. We'll go at 40, about 20 seconds, Cody.
All right, I'll get myself untwisted here.
Oh, God. Get yourself less comfortable so you'll be fresher and ready for the conversation.
I have a new office chair coming. I can't wait.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. Once again, it is I, your host for the night, not the guy in the second chair issuing conspiracies, because I got a guy to fill in for that. It's me, Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant, here on WYSL, here live on the interwebs. Guys, WYSL, we have extra conversations. We're not just a radio show. We're also a long-form podcast. And so with all due respect to you guys, we love you. We appreciate you, but you're missing out on some of our stuff. If you could join us on our nights when we go live on the interwebs, that would be great. You'd probably get to ask some of the questions that you want to ask. Once again, joining me tonight, my friend Cody Anderson. We've covered a couple big subjects, right? We covered the FISA warrants. We covered the benevolence of our Uber queen, Kathy Hochul.
And her husband,
Bill. Completely like legit business model of selling access to New York State governing policies.
Perfect.
So what's your next conspiracy you want to throw out there, Cody?
Not a conspiracy, but let's talk about the boondoggle that is financing affordable housing in New York State.
Sure.
And Tim, I think you wanted to talk a little bit about the New York City part of it.
Yeah.
And if you can kind of open with that, I would expand. I'll add some additional stuff. But go ahead.
So look, guys, Kevin and I have talked at length about how New York State has restricted the rights to build, how New York State has at the very least contributed to the housing crisis, contributed to this highly expensive,
restrictive zoning and
restrictive zoning. So all sorts of things have gone on through the years. Restrictive building practices, increasing codes. I've even gone so far as to blame like tenants' rights to the point of not because people are bad, but people can use feedback immediately in their lives to be better. We've gone too protective of tenants' rights. People are refusing to share space with people because you could let a bad person move in your house, you're stuck. You could be stuck with them. They could destroy your property, destroy your peace of mind, and you can't get them out of your house. And that's a
Tim,
reality. All of these things contribute to the housing crisis, but they're going to fix it, Cody, by doing things like getting rid of zoning, handing
what
out
happened?
grants.
But what happened? What happened during COVID? What happened when the market, and this is really the federal government? What happened
Sure.
when they intervened? Right?
That-
Landlords were left holding the bag for people who were not paying rent. They were having to pay expenses for taxes, utilities in some cases, depending how
Sure.
leases were written and things like that, and essentially drove a lot of New York State landlords and all over the country. It's not just New York State. This is a crazy edict put out by the CDC, as you will remember. The CDC, who has absolutely nothing to do with housing or anything, said that people don't have to pay rent.
They
Not
don't
a
have to
law.
pay
Not a
rent.
law. Not a law. It was a regulation,
It
which
was a
has
regulation, but dude, then they also said no evictions. They put a moratorium on
correct,
evictions, right?
correct.
So people get confused. I know that our audience understands this. You understand this. What they've done is destroy the middle class side hustle in hopes of getting better rights for people. They've demonized landlords in rural New York the same way that they demonize landlords in New York City. It's the
100%.
same gig. So now their goal here in New York City is to get people to build, to get people to put apartments in their basements, all of these things that they restricted. Okay, now they're even offering like credits, tax credits. They're upping their tax credit game to get people to build new buildings in densely populated urban areas. So,
Um,
all of you people in rural New York that imitated the virtues of New York City, they're changing their shtick. They're changing their story. I think you have a specific case that you want to discuss, right?
so very interesting. So I originally hail from Columbia County, lived there for 20 years. It's across the river, right on the Massachusetts border. So Columbia County also has a big weekender population. So they've been for as long as I was there, they're a very purple county, right? There's a lot of very agrarian very agrarian economy with a big weekender bent, right?
Sure.
So back in 2018, 2019, they the town I lived in the town of Chatham. The town of Chatham had Democrats, controlling the town board, and they were adamant about pushing through these zoning changes to basically support what they claimed was to support the comprehensive plan. Well, it got a little crazy. I won't get into the details, but one of the things they're trying to pass were building what are called accessory housing units on people's land, right? And look,
Sure.
I'm a natural rights guy. I think people should be able to do with their land what they want to, as long as they're not harming their neighbors, right?
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
I think if I want to build a cottage on my property, I should be able to do it. I should be able to house grandma there, or my mother, or use it as an Airbnb, right? So so
Absolutely.
so so they're advancing the straw man that Airbnbs are as they are in many places. Airbnbs are causing an affordable housing crisis, which
That's
is
nonsense, by the way.
it's total nonsense. It's total nonsense because a lot of the places I see being rented as VRBOs and Airbnbs are a- uh, are absolutely unsuitable
Right.
for
Right.
anyone with less means to rent, right? Unless you're going to force somebody to partition off a mansion and put in six power meters, right?
Correct.
So Zach, I agree. Uh, they are expletive deleted, stupid.
Correct.
So anyway, the Democratic town council died on that hill, and actually they had some independent people take over the town board, and all was well in Camelot until recently, and they're trying to resurrect the zoning changes again. They're
Okay.
also but they're also interestingly accepted $2 million in state funding to support, to allow people to build, basically give people grants to build accessory housing units on their land.
Fantastic.
Well,
See?
and I'd be fine with people building accessory housing units if it weren't for the fact that it was subsidized by taxpayer money, right?
Correct.
And for my part, although they say we can't use it as an Airbnb, you and I both know, Tim, because we hate rules. We know that the that people will absolutely use them as Airbnbs, right? Right.
Well, they'll
And
absolutely do whatever they can get away with.
100%,
100%. 100%.
100%.
So,
And
look, Cody, a common theme that I have going, right, is that the government creates a problem, then they have to correct for the problem, and everything that they do distorts markets. Okay. So
absolutely.
now, all of a sudden, instead of it being organically grown, where people are building their own accessory units to serve their family, to serve a need for a little side cash, to provide people with good, clean housing in the garage, right? Like these are things that they denied us to do for decades. And now they're
Correct.
going to go the other way and subsidize it. Like this
Correct.
is high level nonsense. I want to use a word that I can't use on the radio, so I'm not going to use it, but it's amazingly, incomprehensibly stupid. It's stupid.
100%. And look, it gets back to the pandemic where the government
Yeah.
was absolutely choosing winners and losers.
Mhm.
The only businesses that stayed open were the businesses that had the economies of scale to support it, right?
Right.
Your Home Depots and your Walmarts and your Lowe's and what have you.
Sure. They gained market share at the cost of small places. It
And
was
how many thousands of
stupid.
businesses did they kill in the process of picking winners and losers?
I think it was
Thinking
millions. Yeah, millions of businesses.
nationwide, but
Sure.
definitely thousands alone here in New York. New York is
Correct.
still recovering from the ineptitude and it's just ineptitude or engineering of our own state government.
I wonder. It's hard for me to distinguish it from malice, Cody. That there was an element of malice in the promises to keep us safe. That were deliberately disempowering the middle class and punishing the poor. Like
D-
those are real things that the COVID lockdowns did. They
there- there-
That's it.
100%. And there's a saying that I like to repeat that it's, you do not attribute to malice what can be easily attributed to incompetence, right?
Pshaw,
And
pshaw. I don't like that.
but
Go ahead.
I think there's absolute malice, and I think, look, I'll come right out and say it. I think that Governor Cuomo intentionally killed a lot of nursing home residents through his
Okay,
through his
that's
through
bold.
through his own. I'll say it. I
Yeah,
think there's a lot of other people who say it in this, who agree with it in this audience. I don't. I think I'm not. It's not a big stretch.
sure. Look, guys, I think that there is something that's misunderstood about nursing homes. We have rehab centers all over the country where they take people from hospitals, they put them in these rehab centers. These things are called nursing homes. They make a lot of money. They have an aged population. They have an unhealthy population, people that have had major surgery that they may not recover from, right? And they took people infected with COVID and put them in these rehab centers, these
A-
nursing homes, okay?
And by the way,
As
they
an
take a lot of
alternative
government,
to keep them in hospitals. Go ahead.
and they take a lot of government money, Tim. They take a
Yeah,
lot of government money in the form of Medicaid and
absolutely they
Medicare and
do.
Medicare.
Yeah, absolutely they do. That's an absolute fact. I think it's a little bit misunderstood. And I think that the more we keep presenting and representing that reality, I think it's very important that people understand just how bad that was, just what a bad decision that was.
Well, I think a lot of people outside New York State don't really have an idea of how bad it was. I know people who had loved ones in nursing homes who literally died alone in nursing homes because they weren't allowed to visit and because of the tyrannical COVID policies that were essentially enforced by Governor Cuomo.
And look, we're talking about Hochul and her husband. All right, we need to talk about the financial relationships between Cuomo and the nursing home people, right? Like there were they were big donors, they were buying
100%.
favorable legislation and favorable action. Like and getting people with COVID to the nursing homes was incredibly favorable financially for those nursing homes.
I
And
want to give I want to give a big plug here to the Empire Center in Albany. They are I hesitate to call them a libertarian think tank, but they're sort of the Cato Institute of New York State.
okay.
And if you're not empirecenter.org, and if anyone's if they break down so much of this stuff in a way that is meaningful. They've sued the New York State government to get data that the state was not giving up. They're really the heroes here, and I strongly recommend anyone who wants to see the government's this is a word I want to use that I cannot. But if
Sure.
anyone wants to see wants to get a feel for what is going on behind the scenes with New York government and that hand in glove relationship, you absolutely have to read the Empire Center newsletters. They're key to understanding.
I think that's a fantastic recommendation. I think that people in the WYSL audience and even some of our friends out there in the Facebook internet land occasionally listen to us and say, these guys go too far. Where do they get these conclusions from? Where do they come up with this stuff? How can they attribute malice to things that are obviously they were doing their best with limited information? And that is not that's not good enough for me. It,
Nope.
based on studies, data, and conclusions and opinions by places like the Empire Center, right? Like these are real things. Like
Kevin may be listening to us right now. I don't know that he is. He probably has bigger things to worry about. But
he sure does.
when he hears this, he's gonna look at me and go, "I have to." He's gonna try to heal faster just because he's watching me take the firebrand approach to
Yeah, well,
get the calling out New York State government. That is not Kevin.
Yeah, well,
but that
and now I've got no one to reel me in, Cody. So that's like either good for
perfect.
the show or bad
Perfect.
for the show. But
I
also, Kevin is great. Kevin is a pragmatic, has a very pragmatic approach. He does try to attribute incompetence where I think malice is appropriate, but also he's getting there. He's young. He's young, Cody. We'll help him.
we're so old and wise, Tim. We're so
I
old and
know.
wise.
Listen, we are coming up on the end of the show. I do have a correction to issue to the internet audience and hopefully the WSL audience. You're probably going to
Apologize for nothing, Tim.
yeah, it's just a correction. Guys, thank you very much for being here. Thank you to the WYSL audience. Thank you to WYSL. Thank you to Cody Anderson. You all have a good night.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. So look, Cody, I promised everybody I was going to issue a correction.
Off the air.
Yeah, I know. I thought I was going to do it on the air. I can't remember if Queeter and I talked about the '92 post office scandal, and what happened was it popped in my brain when I was on my way to work, which I drive to work like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I try to like write down things in my phone, like what I'm thinking about talking about on the show. And I
Yep.
remember going back to 1992, 91, and I remember this whole house post office scandal, right? And it's an amazing piece of history where corruption literally in your face was underreported on the news, was underreported, and accountability was severely lacking. Like people's goal is to hold their representatives accountable, but they never do, right? 92% of incumbents get reelected every time. Of the 8% that don't get reelected, 2 or 3% of them retire and move on to either cushier jobs or decide that they don't want to work in government anymore.
Oh well, because they may not get elected again, right? That's one reason. One,
Sure.
or they've gotten a better offer in the public private sector.
Yeah,
That
the public-private sector of lobbying.
the revolving door. The revolving door.
Correct. Anyway, so I made a statement about how Congress people were able to go to the House post office and kite checks. I want to be clear that was completely inaccurate. Completely. So I apologize, but they were able to go to the House bank and kite frickin' checks and not pay the frickin' checks back and take that frickin' cash and put it in their pockets. Okay, so
golly, Tim, are you saying that the taxpayers paid for their bad checks?
absolutely. And so what it was?
Can I swear yet?
Yes, you can.
Fuck those guys.
There was 2 fucking scandals in the 1992 area, and I conflated them. All right, I combined them into one. So there was the House
Why not both?
Scandal.
Why not
Right.
both?
Exactly. Why not both? There was the House banking scandal, Cody, and then there was the House post office scandal, which both involved representatives going to government institutions and pocketing cash. All right. The other thing I made, there was another false statement that I made. And I said that no one lost their job in the House post office scandal. No one was punished. Now, it all started with them catching a House post office employee. The House post office scandal started with them catching a House post office employee embezzling $7,000. And they flipped on the whole system. They're like, well, you think that's bad? Check this out. All right. So they're like, check this out. They're like, all right. So the House post office scandal involved congressional representatives taking their mail vouchers to the House post office and exchanging them for cash. They're like, hey, this thing's worth like $5,000, and they'd be like, well, we'll give you $3,000 for it, and then so
it's like well, first of all, voluntary transactions. So who am I to judge? But
sure, why not?
But also, it's like literally they had their own fiat currency. It's insane.
Did.
It's literally their own Bitcoin. In the mid 90s.
So now the House post office scandal actually did churn out some convictions.
Mr. Rostenkowski, correct?
Yes, Mr. Rostenkowski was convicted of some sort of money laundering kind of almost near RICO kind of thing, public corruption type thing.
He's from Illinois. He's from Illinois. You can't help
it. Well, correct. I mean, that's just like Ukraine. That's just how they do things there. You know what I mean? It's just the way we do business.
Rod Blagojevich, the dailies. Yeah, it's all part of the. It's my kind of town.
That's right. So, anyways, he did a short stint in jail, but thankfully, on his way out the door, Wild Bill Clinton just issued him a pardon. Like, we can't get a pardon for Edward Snowden for revealing government corruption and spying on people. We can't get a pardon or an abrogation of charges for Julian Assange, right? But luckily, a guy like Dan, who served his country so well, can get a pardon from Bill
Did he though? Did he serve? Yeah. Did he serve? Or was it completely self-serving? It was. No, I think he's the worst kind of politician, and look, I think there's some people who enter politics who are who want to go into public service, feel how you want about her. Tulsi Gabbard is one of those people, and you
Okay.
start to sort of, and it's why she walked away from the Democrat Party, right? It's
Justin
one of
Amash. We've got
one of the
guys that have done it, people that have done it.
Tom Massey, like really,
Sure.
he's there. They're up to hold the Constitution. Dan Rostenkowski is absolutely the worst, and
Sure.
he is the kind of guy who should be pilloried for the things that he has done for self enrichment at the expense of his constituents and the nation.
Well, arguably, like I listen to Jordan Peterson once in a while, and like, don't pan me for this, but like, he talks about the dark triad of personalities, right?
Yeah,
The narcissists,
it's real.
people,
It's totally real.
power mad psychopaths, and they serve themselves well if they get into a government position. And when we look at the way,
But this why but they're attracted to government positions for the very
sure,
reason that they can they can take advantage of their position of power, right?
correct. I mean, practically every day, another ugly person with power makes promises that they can't keep to protect people from something that's not really a threat, right? So that they, A, buy their vote, B, persuade them to keep them in power. And it's an amazing dynamic in our society today that I feel even back in the 90s, we were more outraged then by the House post office scandal, by by the house banking scandal. But to be fair, like and Whitewater, right? Like the amazing odds of being able to trade commodity futures, take $1,000 and turn it to $100,000. The odds of that are so astronomical that that is absolutely not what happened. They were backdating trades and they were paying off the Clintons like that. The odds are so against it that that is the only rational answer. Doesn't
Tim,
happen
o-
that way.
Tim O'Connor, do you follow Unusual Whales on Twitter?
I do. I do actually.
Well, and for those people who are unaware, they're sort of around kind of along the same lines as the Twitter feed Nancy Pelosi's stock trades.
Yes. Yeah, I love that stuff.
But they basically use public information to show how these public servants are using their positions of special knowledge
Public
to
servants.
public
Needs air
servants.
quotes.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Public servants to who use their position of special knowledge to profit, and this is why you have Nancy Pelosi, making $20 million a year doing absolutely nothing.
That's that. Look, man, I've talked about this on the show probably too many times, but I used to listen to Sean Hannity occasionally. I like listening. I'm not a music
How
guy. I don't
dare
like
you? How dare you?
right.
How
So
dare you?
Sean Hannity was actually putting the screws to New Gingrich a little bit, like asking him questions and being like, "Hey, isn't this obviously corrupt?" And he was talking about Paul Pelosi being, coming up on $100 million, Paul and Nancy's net worth, and how they started with basically nothing, and that this has mushroomed into this massive accumulation of wealth. And Newt Gingrich, the conservative icon, the guy who wanted to take on Social Security, says, "Oh, I know Paul Pelosi. Paul Pelosi is an astute investor." And look, to Sean Hannity's credit, he was like, "What?" Like literally, he was like, "What?" And I was just like,
That's what he should be. That's what he should be.
yeah, no, it was wild, man, and that may have been the last time, like, because then he didn't follow up and challenge him harder on that. That may have been the last time I listened to Sean Hannity, and I discovered the world of podcasts.
Well,
Like I'm just like, all right, well, I can listen to guys that I really kind of agree with.
right. And look, there's I can you actually pay for a service from Nancy Pelosi's stock trades or Unusual Whales, and you make those trades on your own portfolio, which by the way is, if I had that kind of cash, I would probably do it.
What about the inverse Kramer? Have you ever taken a look at that?
Look, That's easy. Just whatever Kramer says, do the opposite.
Well, he's a salesman, right? Doesn't that imply that he's actually just trying to pump and dump bad stocks? Like, isn't that probably a
100%.
real thing? Like, he's out there
100%.
giving stock advice for money, and
100%. He used to run. He founded an investor news service called TheStreet.com in the early 2000s. They were
correct.
they're actually clients of mine for a very brief time.
Oh, good. Well, now you can talk about him. That's good.
Well, now I can. It's 20 years. What are you gonna do? I never signed an NDA. So at any rate, it is all about. And by the way, I also worked through the .com era and things like that with a lot of these like know nothing, do nothing companies that it was all smoke and mirrors, right? And they're sort of the same. They're sort of the same deal. Sort of the same deal, in my opinion.
Sorta. They're all the same deal, right? Like
Yep.
it's yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, our buddy Legacy Zach, who I actually did a little podcast with on Friday, not a little podcast. We had like 5 guys, the Twitter malcontents of Liberty got together, and we were having a nice conversation. It was really a lot of fun. What's your take on Ross Ulbricht?
So release him, right?
Sure.
Because he's literally done nothing other than engage in voluntary transactions, right?
Well, one of the voluntary transactions he engaged in was
it's Ulbricht. Not to correct Zach, it's Ulbricht. Ross Ulbricht is his last name, but
what did I say?
No, Zach typed Albright, but it's
we
Ross
knew.
Ulbricht.
It's self-correct. Probably Apple.
And Zach, I'm absolutely not correcting you.
Yeah.
But it is Ulbricht. So look, here's a guy who did nothing more than facilitate transactions between willing participants, right? And I'm totally for that.
Sure.
I'm totally for that. I think his conviction was a sham. I think his continued incarceration is a sham.
Okay, so I did ask a specific question though, and because we were correcting Zach, you might have not heard me, but he was
totally missed it. Totally missed it.
Yeah, he was convicted of hiring a hitman, like to kill somebody. Like that's. I mean, it's a voluntary transaction. It was an FBI guy.
It's all you need to know, right there. Look, here's.
I'm with you.
The FBI is all about entrapment, right?
Sure.
Yeah, Alice. Yes, government is fraud. Yeah. Yes,
man.
Yes, it sounds like Larry Sharp. Yes, Alice.
Yes. I love Larry.
And Zach, I wanted to comment earlier, but it did not seem appropriate. Zoning is bullshit.
It's fucking it's bad.
And let me tell you a story, very brief that I hope I can tell every time I can. I with my ex-wife and I bought a property in West Virginia, 40 acres, with a 2,000 square foot house, a meadow barn, and it's pretty desirable. It's
Sure.
about 30 miles northeast of Charleston, West Virginia, which is pretty far west. It's right under Cleveland, but it's as far west in West Virginia as you can get, right?
Okay.
But sort of in the northern part. So Tim O'Connor, I probably had this conversation with you, but you may not remember the answer, so I'm going to ask you again anyway.
Okay.
What are my taxes on 40 acres and a 2,000 square foot house?
I actually remember, and it's something like $687.23.
You're very close. Although if Price is Right, you would be over and you'd lose.
It was 500 something, right?
It was just under $500.
Oh my God.
And just to be clear, my house, the way things work down south, just so you're aware, is and in a lot of places is that if you don't live in an incorporated municipality, you live in the county. You just live in an unincorporated part of the county, which is what my place is. And so also in West Virginia, there's one county school district. There's none of this 8 school district per county bullshit that you
Right.
see in Otsego or Columbia or Schoharie County.
That's also
Uh,
part of the system. It's systemic corruption, right? You have
hu-
overlapping administrators making $400,000 a year. It's like
100%. And by the way, most most superintendents don't make more than like 200,000, but it's still a lot of money, right? And when you multiply that, if you spread it over an entire county, it's a lot of money in New York. So um, also in West Virginia, the state owns all the roads unless you're in an incorporated uh, municipality.
okay,
And by the way, the county seat of Roane County, West Virginia, which is the city of Spencer, is the only incorporated municipality in the entire county. So
right,
so so essentially, you don't have and the county government very small. Sheriff, court system, floodplain management, like dumb
right,
stuff, right?
right. All the
So
so look, it's the self-fulfilling government is a jobs program, and they use those numbers after they create those jobs to say that they're growing GDP. Like,
but they've got but in its own Roane County, West Virginia, they have 3 elected county commissioners, and they're literally doing the work. they're
okay,
literally they're literally doing the
I
work
love it.
of
Out there
issuing
raking in.
floodplain 100%. So when I'm paying for 100 something dollars a year in taxes, I sort of know exactly what I'm getting. And don't
Mhm.
get me wrong, like the schools in West Virginia are not so great.
West
They're
Virginia is a poverty-stricken hellhole.
100%, 100%. And we're my county is up north, so you don't have a lot of the coal mine. In fact, the county I live in is one of the 2 counties in West Virginia that has no extractable coal resources. Fun fact.
Oh,
Um,
that's
but
lucky.
but I guess there was no black lung. So
Sure.
so we so there's you don't have a lot of the you have some, but not to the extent of the problems that you have down in the southwestern part of West Virginia, close to
Correct,
Kentucky,
okay.
where you have meth and fentanyl and problems
Well,
and
where
all that
they
sort of thing.
destroyed entire generations have grown up harvesting coal, and they
100%.
destroyed that business. They, meaning the government, destroyed that business.
Yep.
In
Absolutely.
under the auspices of to protect us from global climate change
Yep.
and to shift us into new forms of power generation. Um, some of which the new forms of power generation I like. I think that limitless cheap power is a way to solve all of the world's problems. I don't think that we're going to get there until we make a big commitment to nuclear, but we shouldn't we should just keep adding to the system, not crushing generations. Like I'm not a global climate alarmist, Cody. I don't know where you are at it.
Oh, I'm not either.
I'm not buying
I'm
any of
really
that.
not either.
The
And by the
data
way,
doesn't work.
well, it doesn't, and I think that having energy choice is the best situation.
Sure,
The United States by tonnage is one of the lowest emitters of carbon in all the world. Like if we look at
sure.
India, we look at China, they are far worse
Yes.
than the United States. So Governor
We
Hochul has mandated that we all buy electric cars by 2030. I will absolutely be buying my car out of state if I'm not if I'm living in the
ha
state still, which
ha I got you.
I may not. You didn't get
Hmm.
me. Yeah, I know exactly
Yeah.
what my plan is. But at the but and again, you know, the process of lithium mining for these batteries and for the electronic components and things like that is far more destructive than me driving my partial zero emissions vehicle Subaru Outback all over the state, right? Um, that's just
Right.
me.
No, I get it. I get it. So look, let's I have a suggestion to Facebook
Sure.
user. Um I'm kind of done calling them public schools. That almost gives them too much credence. What we have is a government school system. Okay.
State-run school.
State-run school system that is based on the Prussian model, which originally was to turn out good workers and people that were willing to sacrifice themselves in war, right?
Compliant individuals.
So now what we have done is taken that Prussian model and used it to turn people into emotional infants who what feel entitled to gesticulate emotionally on every single subject out there. And postmodernism, oh my God, I started reading about that. Like I've just been hearing the word, so I started reading about postmodernism. I'm like, what in the world? Like, what is this, Cody? What is this stuff? This postmodernism. What is this?
Look, Schoharie School District, which is just north of me, by the way, only 6 miles away. Why they haven't merged with Middleburg School District, I don't know. Different topic, but related. They had a Native American mascot. The state the state came out with an edict that said you might want to consider this nice mascot there. It'd be a shame if somebody took away all your school funding because you had it. And all of a sudden they were the Schoharie Storm, which
what a great name.
Well, it is a good name, except that it highlights one of the darkest periods in Schoharie County, which only occurred about 10 years ago with the catastrophic floods and what have you.
Sure.
So, but it's absolutely insane where it's gone. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, Cooperstown went through something very similar. They had a Hawkeye, which like a tribute to a great writer that came out of the Cooperstown area.
Yeah.
And it was a tribute to one of his greatest books. It was an absolute epic work. And so now
Last of the Mohicans, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And so now an homage to a great writer, James Fenimore Cooper, if I recall correctly.
You're absolutely
they named the freaking town after him, right? But like they offer a tribute to his book. They offer a tribute to Native Americans. And now it's like, oh my God, no. You know what I mean? So now it's like a big block C, and we don't even know what they're going to call themselves after this. Like no one knows, like it's just, this is a perversion of what is all that is good. This identity politics is brain cancer. How do you feel about that? Is that too bold of a statement?
No, it absolutely is not. And when you start to tell people what they should think, you remove the capability for rational thought and civil discourse, right? And the state Department of Education basically told all these schools, it's not just Schoharie. I'm singling them out because I know their deal, right?
All over statewide. It was statewide. That was my point about bringing Cooperstown into it.
100%. And how many towns, how many school districts statewide have an Indian or some other historically correct historically correct mascot, and they have completely
whitewashed.
Well,
no, they're whitewashing. They're whitewashing.
Can't say that either.
Okay, but that's the reality, Cody. Right? Like they are whitewashing history.
They're erasing history. That's absolutely
they're taking homages to issues that happened. They're taking homages to the fact that people in Canajoharie, the Canajoharie used to be the Canajoharie Indians, right? Now they're the Canajoharie beach nuts or whatever. You know what I mean? Like what? So what? I don't understand what they're doing. I don't necessarily think it's right. I understand it on some level, but also like Land O'Lakes, Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, all of these these great entrepreneurs of history are being whitewashed under the guise of identity politics, and I just don't think we're serving anyone with that. Like
No.
I just don't.
And what's really changed? What's really changed is that's open to interpretation. I'm asking a rhetorical question, but
Sure.
what has really changed?
I think that all it does is up the animosity amongst people. I don't think it's a long-term solution to anything.
It's divide. It's all about divide.
Divide and
Divide.
oh, so what's really changed is that the government has enhanced centralized authority and planning to appeal to
Correct.
emotional infants. That's
Correct.
what I think.
Also, I'd point out Middleburg's mascot is the Knight. It's the Middleburg Knights, and the Knights did not do great things during the Crusades. I'm just saying.
What? The Knights of Templar.
Correct. I'm just saying.
Look, so they changed it to the Knights.
No. Middleburg
okay.
still has been the Knights, and they're still the Knights. But they
that
have
won't last.
But the state doesn't have a problem with that.
We're what, gentrifying? Is that the word? We're gentrifying everything. We're just...
I don't know. It's not even like gentrification. It's.
I think whitewashing is the right word.
And I hate using
say
the word.
but...
And I hate using the word woke. But it's it's about sense changing dictating what people's sensibilities should be, right? And look, I'm a free speech guy,
right?
And even if you're an Illinois Nazi or if you're a racist, I think you should have the right to say what you're going to say. I also believe that it'll sort shit out real quick.
Yeah.
Just freedom of association and people, let people know who, the kind of person you really are. They will disassociate real quick. And I think there's value in that. But forcing everybody into the shadows where they're kind of low key versions of themselves, it prevents us from knowing who we're really dealing with. But it also generates a lot of resentment.
I think that it generates. I'd like to think it generates an awareness of the ineffectual appeal to emotion that the government is using to centralize power. They're going to keep going on this track until every person is appeased, right?
I'd like to meet the Native American. I'd like to meet a Native American who complained about Scary Harry's mascot. That's what I'd like to meet.
Well, it didn't happen, right? Because it was a centrally planned
happened.
edict that came down from the state.
Correct.
Somebody somewhere may have complained about some mascot for some school somewhere. And so the central government swooped in and said, we should fix this. And according to the broken windows fallacy, making all these school districts spend thousands of dollars to correct their mascot issue,
yep,
we are going to stimulate the economy in New York. Like that's I think the kind of justification and the circular logic that they apply to these situations. I don't know. Zach, I don't know. I don't know, okay. Cody. I don't know. Cody, Oh, go ahead, please.
Oh, well, so the same argument you can make about gay marriage in New York, right? Mm-hmm. When they legalized it.
Sure.
And by the way, I to be very clear, I think that everyone deserves the right to be as miserable as straight married people.
Well, even as a conservative, I was like, look, I've been married. Let them get married.
Knock yourself out. right? Knock
It
yourself
can
out.
suck for them too. It's fine. You know what
You
I
and I,
mean?
you and I have both been through it twice. You're still in your second one, Tim.
My wife loves me. I'm
I
lucky,
know,
man.
and you love her. I
Yes.
heard the conversation on the open mic while you were getting your MK Ultras.
Yes,
But
correct.
I think maybe they thought there's some financial um um what is the word I'm trying to say?
I don't know.
Benefit to New York
Sure.
State by becoming a mecca of gay marriage. I don't know.
You think we
You know,
did?
no,
No, we didn't.
no, because what I can tell you is, and coming from Columbia County, is that there is a vibrant, integrated group of gay weekenders, and even people who would come out there full time to live,
Sure.
who were who just wanted to be part of the crowd. Like they didn't want to be gay married. They just wanted to be married, right? They wanted
Right.
to be together, and in a
Right.
certain way,
There,
in enabling gay marriage creates this us and them, right? And
yeah.
which is just what we're going through right now. It's and
Correct. Yes. Yes. So look, Shelley takes the outstanding libertarian position of the state needs to get out of the business of marriage because it gives them the right to decide where children and assets go in a divorce.
I'll
That
even up it. I'll even up it,
they
and I'll
take a percentage, don't they?
say that individuals have to take steps to keep the government out of out of marriage.
The
And I know lots of people, and I'm in the process of doing that myself, of keeping the setting up my life so that I have the same legal rights as a married person.
well, so back then, right? Back then when the argument about gay marriage was going on, people were like, you guys could just contract your way out of this. Like, you can just fill out these paperwork. You could just contract your way into whatever relationship you want.
Hundred
Why are
percent.
you asking the government to get involved in that?
Well,
I
I
was
also
not a
think, Tim.
libertarian then, but I was
Yeah,
like, Jesus Christ, that makes sense. You know what I mean? I was like, holy
but
cow,
Tim,
do it that
under
way.
the Constitution, again, natural rights guy, I think anyone should be able to marry whoever they want to, right? And but
Absolutely.
under the Constitution, I think it's an equal protection issue, and I think that's ultimately what and I don't remember what the Supreme Court said, but I believe it all came down to equal protection, and providing the same protections to a gay couple as a heterosexual couple, right?
Look, I absolutely in my heart of hearts know that that is a better way, right? Like that is why I somehow had to end up here, Cody, right? Like where I'm
Yep.
just like your emotional shit is not affecting me, okay? And look, I'm a guy that believes in spirituality. I'm a guy that believes in like the sanctity of human life, but like the religious oppressors are the same as the government in my mind, right?
Hundred percent.
That doesn't mean that I don't admire people who profess an honest Christian faith. That I do, right? But like when it's a tool for control, when it's a tool for raking in the cash, when it's a tool for a narcissist who's attractive, I I reject the trappings of that as much as I reject the trappings of government. The false promises of false prophets is a real problem. Now,
100%.
there's a philosophy behind Christianity that I find amazing and beautiful and poignant, right? But it's not mine to teach you. Mine is to say, hey, look, we're human beings. This is what's right. Let's treat each other cool and let's stop letting the government manipulate us. Maybe that's too much of a rant right now for me and you hanging out and talking to
No,
our friends on the
no,
internet, but
no,
it,
no. I think it gets it, but it gets at the point, right? And it gets at the
sure.
point of eliminating centralized authority from your life, and whether look, I'm a professed atheist,
Sure.
and you know, but and by the way, I am also a confirmed Presbyterian.
Good for you.
Had a very we don't believe
I
in
don't-
anything. We don't believe
Right.
in anything really. But
God bless you for that, lad.
but the, but and I didn't have a bad experience, right? Like for me, growing up, church was about a sense of community and belonging
Sure.
and support, right? And for me, it was not about it was not about God. Um,
Fair
and
enough.
there are people in our audience who will disagree with that, and you know I respect their view. I hope they'll respect mine. But at the end of the day, um, I could have been part of a much more tyrannical, what I perceive to be a tyrannical sect of Christianity, whether
Sure.
it's Catholicism or you know that comes to mind immediately, right? Because
Correct.
of all the things because of all the things we know. eh,
Peripherally, right? Like I was associated or affiliated with the Catholic Church and
Yep,
have been. I was married in a Catholic church my first time.
yep,
There was a distinct pressure to participate in the Catholic Church. My mom and my uncle went to Catholic school. Now, their experiences in Catholic school allowed them to say, we're not going to do that for our kids. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
right.
so
Which
that
by
I
the way,
benefited from that probably.
which by the way, you know, to me, and that we're sort of going off the liberty rails here, but not really.
Nah, we're
Is that I think organized religion is provides a moral code for a lot of people who may not otherwise have one, right? And by the way, to do as
yes,
I say, by the way, to do as I say, not as I do,
sure.
kind of code, right?
If
Eh,
I was to say there appears to be a lot of people out there that need a better fucking religion when right now they're worshiping the government and the power that they think they're affiliating with. Like, would that be a fair statement?
Many of my libertarian friends have a strong faith-based existence,
Sure.
and it's between them and God.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
I think that's fair.
And living a moral existence, right? And I think you can live a moral existence without religion. I think that religion provides
A
provides
framework.
a framework, right?
Sure.
And Shelley's, you know, I'm reading Shelley's comment here, you know, and she's a Christian and she follows Christ and not preaches and priests, and that's exactly if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
it,
That's
it
a
it's
religion I could buy into, right? Like that's okay, right? Like
100%.
yeah,
And I'm sort of Christian curious, right? We're very lucky here in Middleburg. We have a very strong Catholic church. We have a very strong Reformed church here in Middleburg. We have
mhm,
a Methodist church that is kind of flailing, but they've adapted, right?
sure.
And but at the end of the day, they all provide some kind of community and provide a way for providing for the Middleburg community, which by the way is I'm not saying that it is faith based, but there is absolutely a sense of community here that I have not seen in many places.
That's pretty cool. One of the things I noticed about Middleburg is it doesn't have a college in it, and that it still is a thriving kind of
Middleburg.
medium-sized town.
So if you live so of course there's the village, you know, the village is where I live, right?
Yeah.
And as far as commercial centers go, we are second only to Cobleskill. And, you know, Cobleskill, you know, literally
Congratulations.
uh, I guess, you know, they've got 4 auto parts stores. They've got, you know, they've got Taco Bell and
They got a
Arby's and
Walmart, son.
100%, and they got a university. So,
Yeah.
but and actually, and a pretty good one if you're into the state-run school thing. But
Sure.
I guess my point is that so much of what goes on here is um is based on community and gathering and connecting connecting with one another and knowing your neighbor, right? And I think that
Yeah.
I think that's an important part of libertarian philosophy, right? And it's a little bit of that freedom of association and but it has more to do with building communities, right? And I
Right.
think and I think that neighbors need to talk to neighbors, and I think that you don't need restrictive zoning, and you don't need chicken laws, and you don't need all these kinds of things if you
Chicken
need to
laws
be.
are amazing, man. Like,
Well,
wow.
we got one when I first moved here, right? And
Sure.
it's before I even had chickens. Now now I have chickens, and I'm skirting the law, and which is,
Ooh.
yeah, but you know what? At the end of the day, the now mayor says himself that it's about keeping the chickens out of the streets. Because chickens on the streets turn to prostitution and drugs. You should know that.
Oh, well, I thought that was fishing shanties
No,
because there's
no.
literally a guy in Ohio that said, "You know what comes next? Prostitutes." Like, that fishing shanties in the park. You know what
Yep.
comes next? Prostitutes. And it was like,
Yep.
wow, just wow, man.
I'm reading Jamie D. Vanderwalker's comments about
Sure.
about her faith and things, she's making really good points. Is
Yeah.
that she's clearly got her own testimony and not about finding God in a building, but again,
Yeah.
she says she felt it when she needed it. And I think that's important. And I think we all look for faith in different ways, right? But anyway,
Yeah.
getting
Yeah. Man, we
getting
got
back.
sidetracked from talking about news to working on God,
We
bro.
did. This is okay. This is all right.
Yeah. That's all right.
But these are conversations as neighbors and as people who want to understand each other, right?
Yeah,
We
that's a
have
good
to
point. Yeah, that's a good
we
point.
because we want. I really look. I want to understand a commie as much
Good luck
as
with
much
that.
as no,
Good luck with that.
but I
They're
want
emotional
to.
narcissists, man. Like they have no desire other than to control and to divide, right?
But I
Divide
think
other people's labor.
see,
I think. I don't know.
but I think it's all about projection, right? They feel their own lives are out of control, so they feel
Sure.
like they need to be controlled, and they feel like everyone else should be too, right?
Sure, sure.
I think that's what socialism and communism is about. But anyway,
Well, certainly they spend a lot of time lecturing people on what they should do and how they should feel and what the best goals are. Like, so yeah, I mean, what you're saying makes a perfect sense to me.
no.
Perfect.
How about you leave me alone to live your life. I leave you alone to live in your commune.
Yeah, do it, man.
And you can figure out whether that works for you or not. Problem with communism is all great until somebody doesn't work.
Well, but also isn't that aren't a certain percentage of communists like people that don't want to do things, don't want to contribute. They want to be like, I'm the director. I'm going to use my emotional authority to convince other people to provide for me. Isn't that a big part of it?
Some people like the power and the comfort of a collective, right?
Sure, sure.
But the problem
That it's
is that
stupid. Like,
not every well
no, I get it.
not everybody, even you put them in the collective and they like the comfort of it and they like kind of the socialization part of it, the socialism part of it,
Sure.
that starts to fall apart when somebody doesn't want to pull their weight, right?
Right.
It's like Survivor. You know, they get you know.
Yeah.
Do you kick them off the island?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what Stalin did. Okay. Like, look, Stalin found his hardcore adherents, right? The people that helped him get into power. And then he kicked them off the island, bro. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
kept the people that were productive and took care of the people that got him into power. And by take care of, I don't mean that in a friendly way. Like he didn't take care of them. He wiped them off out
Care.
of existence, man. Like
100%. Yep.
that is a power dynamic. Like use whoever you have to get into power. Use the malcontents to get into power. But then they're still going to be malcontented because you are getting nowhere near what they actually want. So you got to get rid of them.
Yep.
Like that's history, man. And here we are, Cody. We have an immense amount of history to choose from. We have an immense amount of stories that tell us about what's going to happen with our current preoccupation with everything. And we learn nothing. Like
And
we
right.
learn nothing.
And yet here we are on the precipice of repeating it, right?
Don't you feel like we are kind of close? Like we're looking at a kind of a disaster. Things are going to break. Fiat's going to break, right? Fiat currency, it looks impossible. The only thing that they can continue to do is devalue it to the point where it's literally worth nothing. And then what? And then what? It's going to break.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not paranoid about it. I've got a freezer full of beef, man. I got a couple years out of that.
I got 2 freezers full of all the meats, and I look, but what happens when they turn off my electricity, right? I'm canning it very quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got enough heat to cook it and turn it into jerky, and I'll have it be able to store it, right? Like I know that would have to be a goal if the electricity shuts off. All right, look,
Jamie made a great point that I want to close with because I can tell you want to get on with this.
I gotta edit this thing.
Jamie
I don't
says
have to do that tonight, though.
Jamie says I think some find the comfort of not having to think for themselves, and I think that's very right. My biggest
Let me.
what I value the most about my life and the way I've structured it, at least in the last 25 years, is that I choose the work I do. I choose the clients I have. I choose with them. I work out with them, and this holds true. This held true during the pandemic too.
Yeah.
I work out the terms of the transaction with them. That is I've left a lot of money on the table over the years, not conforming to a corporate desk job, and I would never do anything different.
I'm with you on that. I want to counter with I think a lot of them find comfort in the possibility that they're going to achieve some semblance of power and be able to demand things from their community that they don't feel they can demand now.
The powerless seek power, right? And they feel
The
like
angry seek power. Right?
They seek the power of the collective, right? And the power of the collective is never good because somebody always wants to lead the collective.
The only way for it to work is with brutal force, right? The only way for any collective to work is with brutal force. I think that's an axiom. I think it's worth repeating. I 100%. Think it's a reality. And maybe I'm arguing from authority without presenting a cogent argument to arrive at that conclusion. Yep. But I think I could argue from the authority of history. I could argue from look, Pol Pot came to power promising equality, right? Like Stalin came to power promising equality, right? Equality, right? Chiang Kai-shek lost because he's like, hey, we can't really offer equality. We've got to offer capitalism and opportunity. Like that's the thing. Like that's where we're
at. But look at Taiwan now, right? Look at Taiwan versus right. I mean, meanwhile, mainland China, as big an economy as they are, and they're essentially a facade, right?
Sure. Look, this one we got to stop because I can tell you I could go on forever. All right, like
I'd be happy to. I'd be
We
happy
could go.
to.
We could go into history. You and I are obviously pretty
Look,
well
Jamie,
versed,
Jamie and
right?
Shelly are hanging in there. I'm happy. I'm happy to
Sure.
just talk to them.
Well, we have we have 75 viewers like on Twitter. Like we have an audience. You know
Do
what I
we?
mean?
Do we really?
I
Because usually when I tune in, it's like Shelly and me.
Sure. On Facebook, the people that actively participate, right? There's who are posting comments on Facebook, um, are not necessarily a bit. We've got the YouTubers that come in. We've got Legacy Zach. We've got Shelly. So is everybody to stay here for the whole 2 hours? No. But
Oh,
our
you've
people,
got social media locked up, O'Connor. Jesus.
yeah. Well, we have at least 8 platforms that we're broadcasting to.
That's amazing.
Yeah, 8 spots. So we do
Okay.
we're getting views. We're plus then we have the radio. And I think Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, there's probably 8,000 people listening to the show.
Look,
Check it out.
look. I'm 3.5 hours from Rochester.
Yeah.
I have no handle on that. But
Rochester's a huge city, man. It's one of the biggest cities in the whole world.
hot market. Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, like
Yeah.
hot real estate markets right now. Like people want to move there.
That's
It's
crazy.
insane to me. Insane. Don't get it. I like
Well,
my country haven here.
I was just gonna say we're like country boy intellectuals. We're just like, you know what I don't need? Tons
Are
of
we though?
fucking
Are we
people up
though?
my ass. No, I don't know. I don't know. Like certainly our language is not gonna match up with the urban knights. You know
Right.
what I mean? But
Yeah, right.
our conversation matches well on our show, you know.
100%. Yep. All right.
So like let's not forget the promises of history though. That was one of the things we were gonna get to. It's like Hitler didn't come to power like saying, hey, you know what I'm gonna do? Kill a bunch of people to come to power. He's like, I want to save the German Republic. That's the promise, right? Like,
Right. And here's who I blame.
correct.
Here's who I
You
blame.
got to have people to blame. You've got to.
100%. I blame the government. I blame the government for all our problems right now. And
Arguably,
I'll leave it at that.
Arguably that's fair. Like that's the divide and concert, the dynamics of power, the divisiveness, the emotionality, all of those things that the government, identity politics,
Yep.
all of it is
dividing everybody rather than
Sure.
I think what we need to do is find more common ground. And the Larry Sharp 80% rule is well and fine, but I think you have to start even before that and just find stuff. In the 2020 election, I was trying to connect with Democrats on the whole militarization of the police thing, and they still pulled the handle for Biden
and
putting dark skinned people in jail over drug prohibition and all these things, and it's like they just yeah, that was bad. Can't believe they did that, and I voted for Biden anyway.
I don't understand why more people don't understand that there is A, comfort, and B, power in being a person unto yourself, right? Like where you can just go, that's wrong. Like, let's not give government a power that they're going to use to stomp our faces in the ground in the future. Like affiliating with a program that appears to be on your side, all it takes is one election for that program to be on the other side, right? Like the program of locking people in cages, like for bad speech, like that is up and coming. They're fighting this battle all over the world, right?
100%. Look, they just had several court cases about it that went up to the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals, and
Sure.
and it's like, there's no. It's no joke. It's really happening. I talked to my ex-father-in-law today, and like well like you couldn't believe. Like I told him, I said, look, I go, the government was literally colluding with the social media companies, and he goes, I didn't read that in the New York Times. I go, of course you fucking didn't.
but he could have, because the New York Times did a fucking story on it, so he kind of skipped that one. Like the New York Times is late to the game, but they're coming around. They're telling the truth slowly and way too late.
Are they though? Are they though?
No, I'm exaggerating. but he did like they are admitting certain things, like CIA bases in Ukraine. Like they're admitting that these are real, like that this was something that happened. So
Yep. Yep.
inevitably, counterculture psychopaths like us, if we keep talking, they have to acknowledge. They have to acknowledge what we're saying.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Nope.
But what I find is though is that on a micro level, is I have these conversations one on one with people, and you can change people's minds,
Sure.
and at least make the case that the government is not benevolent, and people will question reality, right? Which is really what I would like. Look,
That's all we're asking.
at a
Just
minimum,
question. Just ask
I
questions.
question authority, right? That is the libertarian way,
Sure,
and
brother.
that is where that is where I hope people will go.
And look, you and I are both, I think, decent communicators. Like I spend a lot of time saying, you can lecture me about Trump. You want me to concede that he was better than Biden? Okay. But it was still a mess. It was still weird. It was still not what we need. And it was still divisive. You know?
Look, most people who voted for Biden last time are too young to remember when he ran for president last time
As a plagiarist. Like he
as a plagiarist, right? And you
Wow.
can't, and you know, history doesn't lie, and you know, people just have to pay attention to it. That's the biggest
Right.
challenge.
Yeah, so Shelly brought this up a couple times, and we are out of here after I present this to you. Do the Great Roxbury Tax Revolt from the 70s. We're gonna have to check that out. There's lots of I do want to add a component of history to the show, like talking about the 92 post office, congressional post office, the congressional banking scandals that happened. Like I think that would be fun. So we're gonna have to we'll have to look into this one.
We're gonna have it down the rabbit hole episode, Tim. That's what's gonna
Plenty of them.
happen.
It can approach infinity. Anyways, guys, thank you all for that hung in here. Thank you to the Twitter audience who you should make more comments. Thanks to Cody Anderson. I feel bad for Kevin because Kevin usually can reel me back. You're like
No,
the
I'm letting you
worst.
roll. I'm letting you
You're
roll.
just like, no, go, and you're
Fuck it. Do
going
it
further.
live. Do
And
it
I'm like,
live.
I try to
100%.
steel man. I try to steel man a
No.
government argument, and I know
No.
I'm full of
No.
shit.
You know, and I just want to throw this out here. The whole reason the reason I'm even on the show today is after I texted Tim and told him to go, you know, I'm better looking than Queeter.
Yeah.
and then Tim LOL'd me and he's like, you want to do the show? I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well,
No offense,
again,
Tom.
thank you, everybody. Cody, do not disappear. We've got to let the recording upload. Okay.
I know how it works.
All
Settle
right.
down.
Thanks, everybody.